Welcome all to Alchemy Within from Out Amongst the Stars. Thank you all for being here, my Oat Stars. I'm Diana, and we're going to talk today about what's been happening in this stacked house in Aquarius from February 2024 into the Pisces party in March 2024. We've had a lot of concentration in those two particular signs. So if you have a lot of this energy in your natal chart, there might be some really valuable information shared when I discuss the transits and the archetypes and energies and the elements associated with all of that. And yeah, just a quick introduction of myself. I do the empowerment process that I learned through SWAT, and I bring in the tool of astrology and all of the different elements, your water, earth, fire, air, um, and allow people to identify where their strong, unique aspects are of their own natal chart. And I like to help the young adults and their parents because we know we're so different. And you'll see myself talk to my Gen Z daughter on this channel, and we talk about our differences and how this has really, really helped each of us and identifying our, how we operate different in life. And I think it's just so important that we get to be our own unique selves because we did come down with our own blueprint and that particular fated, destiny that we want to share with the world. So if if you're interested in finding out more about your own natal aspects, your own natal chart, archetypes, the elements in which you operate in, and through the astrology, and want some empowerment processes and exercises, and just kind of a spiritual mama who's here to help navigate through this crazy world that we're in. I did not come from that background, and it's all a learning lesson for us all. So yeah, please connect through the email below. Please like and comment and subscribe. Let me know how all of this resonates with you too. And if you want to be part of the community, you can connect through the bit.ly link. And as well, that's a great way to work with me, and you can send me your natal information and we can get you um, the all the information that you need in order to navigate what you're going through at this time. So we'll move on to talk about, we're just going to do a little recap here. We had, you know, last chatted about what was happening in the sky in February. At the end of February, we had a really big change in this synodic cycle. So I set this chart up for February 28th. So you'll be able to see in Pisces what's happened here with the sun coming together with Mercury and Saturn, which was considered cazimi for each of them as they went through the heart of the sun, and changes that synodic cycle of Saturn. And we'll chat more about that. But on February 28th, the first, we had that Mercury in conjunct, or was in conjunction with the sun and cazimi at 1:42 a.m. Mountain Standard Time at 9 degrees. And then we had the Saturn come through at 2:25 Mountain Standard Time through that heart of the sun. So yeah, as I mentioned, that's a Saturn synodic cycle, which is now a shift into whatever was coming up from your past that's reached its expiration date, as some would say. These are particular events and life stories, beliefs, patterns, behaviors that are worn out, and not working in your life anymore. So if there's just been something that you're just like, I'm so done with this, and this is just old news, and it might be a belief, it might be a relationship, it might be a job, it might be something that is just, not what you want in your life anymore. Particularly could be just something to do with that house that is being affected. So you want to look in your own natal chart where your Pisces house is. And I heard from Anne Ortley, I believe, at the degree this is, can also bring back what was happening in your life at that particular time, at that age, that might be coming back around that you're ready to release. So I found that really fascinating because at that, 9-10 degree mark, well, at 9-10 years old, there was a lot going on in our home with the finances, as my dad had done something kind of risky, and then everything crumbled. It was the national energy crisis in the 80s. And for me, there's some of that coming back around because Pisces is in my second house. So we'll go through the houses a little bit later on, but look at that particular Pisces house and what's happening. So, and I've also had this Pluto ingress into my first house because I'm an Aquarius rising. So I have this chart set up, just for the area I'm in. But, and of course, that's what you want to do. Put your rising sign. So if you know your birth time, you can figure out your rising sign and then figure out where your Pisces house is from there. And our big three, our sun, our moon, our rising sign are just really important to know. And the rising is very connected to your exact birth time. So knowing your exact birth time and location is very important. And so, with this stacked Pisces house, what all has been going through here with the sun, the Saturn, the Mercury, the Neptune, and now we're going to go into this new moon on March 10th. But we'll talk about that in a different video. But right now, we want to look at this particular cycle and how it's going to shift for you. And we also are in this time of, Mercury in Pisces conjunct Neptune in Pisces at 27 degrees. So for March 8th, I've put that conjunction there too. And this, can come through in a couple of different ways. It can be very, very inspirational and bring you faith and hope. It can bring all kinds of creativity and, beautiful images and words and visions and really dreamy, but it also can be something that comes through that is foggy or unclear or delusional or, leading you down a garden path with rose-colored glasses, or it can also come through if you're feeling really vulnerable and you're in a really emotional state, feeling like you've been either the victim or you're working or trying to be the martyr or the savior of somebody. So there's a lot of different things that emotionally can be coming up with all of this Pisces energy. So if you have a Mercury in Pisces too in your natal chart, you might really relate to some of this that's coming through. So I'm just going to bring up the chart better for you to see, and we'll get into more details of how this can be showing up for you. So as mentioned, here's the chart for February 28th, and that was the big day of the Saturn going through the heart of the sun and Mercury as well. And we'll first talk about how, this Saturn dying to be reborn again, and, Mercury going through the heart of the sun, which it does every year, is called a cazimi. It is a Latin translation of the Arabic term kazmimi, and it is it means as if in the heart. So in astrology, from the perspective of the of Earth, this is not physically, but the planet is going through the sun's rays to get purified, and in this case, it's Saturn and Mercury both, which is unusual to have all three at the same time. So first of all, there's that unique part of all of this. And when it's cazimi, it's in traditional astrology, like it's 17 minutes of arc, they call it. So these little, numbers here, these are the degrees, and then these are the minutes. And so it's like very, very close, right? 17 minutes. And then when it's outside of, the 1 degree mark, that's considered combust. So you can use that where it, when you're looking at Kazimis, I mean, this one's past now, but you can use that 1 degree mark, or, really to hone in on what's coming through is within that 17 minutes time frame. And so at 1:42 a.m. Mountain Standard Time, we had that Mercury conjunct the Sun on, that was February 28th, of course. A little challenging for Mercury because it's in its fall there, and the communication, sometimes isn't really, really clear, or you have a hard time speaking the words, but also, feeling very emotional. But at the same time, it can help us connect to our divine source and help us bring through, very poetic words, or images, or visions, or, imagination. Beautiful music can come through. And, but it's asking us also to use our emotional intelligence and emotional maturity and the wisdom that we need in the, in our real life, to the boundaries that we have to set and not be caught up too much in the romanticism or fantasy of things, right? And or being too sensitive if things are feeling too rigid. We could see some blow up of that as we move into another aspect we'll talk about, which is that Mars Uranus coming through, and we'll talk about that in a different video. But there can be just some really interesting downloads that come through at that time, right within that time frame. And then when, later in that afternoon, when we had the synodic cycle of Saturn going through the heart of the Sun, it's now what is worn out, what's done, what's over, what we are ready to let go of the old and bring in the new. And, where it is that we're tired of the, delays or limitations or boundaries, and we just want something to be, shifted and moved through. Although as it was happening, it could felt, like really heavy and weighted. It could have felt like you were going through a period of time that was really melancholy or serious, or there was some serious navigation of, from the consequences of you having to deal with something very Saturn related. Well, Saturn in my second house, all to do with, with money, right? And the responsibility and taking responsibility of the situation that you are in. So if you were feeling that kind of around the end of February, that definitely was something that was in the process that felt really hard, difficult, that was wanting to have that, sort of like a kind of like a Pluto moment with Saturn going through the Sun, a death and rebirth, and letting those things that are ready to leave, that are deteriorated, and let them be released and surrendered to, it is what it is. And if there's any mourning or grief or sadness or stuckness that you're feeling, I understand that these transitions in life can be extremely difficult, and that's why I do the work I do, and like to help people work through all of that kind of stuff. And so we all are getting this really incredible consciousness upgrade. We're all having paradigm shifts, and with all of that Aquarius energy, that's also the ideology and ideas of what we believed is our truth now being shifted and changed. With Pluto and Aquarius, it's coming from a whole futuristic place, and what is outside the box, and what we believed as status quo is no longer. So that can feel like a lot as we're moving into this kind of new reality. And the stacked house in Aquarius has brought us into this nice Pisces party going on, as I call it. And on the 29th, we had the Mercury in Pisces, here. It was in this nice sextile to Jupiter. So as you can see, that's the blue line sextiling it. And, that was at 11 degrees and 13 minutes. And also at the same time, we had that Venus in Aquarius sextiling the North Node. And so we have this North Node here in Aries. And that's asking us to be our most authentic, true self, be in our sovereignty, start the things that we want for us. It's the I am energy. And, taking that lead on your own life to initiate and get yourself, fired up to do whatever it is that's calling to you. So, it can bring in these, different things. So what do you have? Like, what are your big plans? What are you communicating to other people about what's kind of coming up? Your Venus is all to do with the relationships, creativity, your values, that path that you're on. Our Mercury is our mind, our mindset, how we speak, communicate with others. And so what are we communicating that is very connected to what we love and what we find beautiful, and what is in our feminine receptivity, and what is of value to us. So moving into March, on March 1st, we had that Sun in Pisces sextiling Jupiter then. And so that also will illuminate that interconnected vision, and that, it's that image, and brings in all of the watery emotions of Pisces that want to be illuminated, and, bringing it down with the Jupiter down into the Taurus earth, get it grounded, get all those things that we find, beautiful, because, we had the Venus sextile before. Well, Venus is the ruler of Taurus. So we want to bring all of those things that we value, that we love, that we find beautiful, that we want in our reality down into the grounded earth of Taurus. Taurus wants to bring it into the material world. And, Venus in Aquarius also was squaring Uranus here. And that was on March 3rd. That one came through. So that can be that, sudden breakthrough, or something that had something to do with, your romantic life. Maybe something went awry there, but also can bring in the Venusian topics of that aesthetic, hair, wardrobe, tattoos, something that you're doing outside the box and revealed to you in an aesthetic way, as well as, relationships. And just keeping in mind that anything that we had to do with, shifting our values and finances and love, and the Venusian theme is really, really present in the beginning of March here. Anything to do with our feminine, relationships, or that aspect of you. I'm not saying anything to do with, gender in particular. It's just we all have masculine and feminine in us, and also how we want to bring it in to a way that we're, that's innovative, and breaking through and breaking free with all the Aquarius energy of what feels like, too rigid or stuffed down, or, wants us to connect with this Taurus part of ourselves. Especially, we have Jupiter and Uranus getting closer and closer together, and we're going to see this conjunction happen in April. So, that's going to allow us to shift everything, in a whole new direction, and asking us to really connect with that Taurus, that, five senses, what feels safe and secure. And, that's going to bring about something in a whole new way. And March 4th, we had the Mercury in Pisces sextile Uranus in Taurus. So as you can see, we had, well, first of all, we had a lot of aspects between this Aquarius house and the Taurus that were a little more tension, that there are adjustments needed to be made because it's a square. But then as you move into the Pisces aspects, it brings in a lot more flow to bring this down and ground it. And so, it wants us to, allow that flow to happen. And, of course, we're opposing that mercurial ruled Virgo, and who wants everything very, very detail oriented, and all of the specifics and all of the logic and organization and perfectionism, and can also be a little bit critical. So whether you're getting criticism or you have your inner critic running the show there with some of these visions and dreams and aspirations you want to bring through, um, you have to keep that in mind as we move through. So with the moon approaching Pisces, with the new moon, which we'll talk about later, um, there is things that when you have a moon in Aquarius, um, to keep in mind, that are different than when you have a moon in Pisces. So the moon in Aquarius that we had moved through in this particular week in the first at the end of the first week of March, for those few days, or if you have this natally, it can feel like just where you are wanting to be so different than everybody, so outside the box, and 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 also just a real kind of innovative approach to the way that you even do relationships. It can be a little bit detached as well. So that's a real different energy than a moon in Pisces, who are very much interconnected, very much about compassion and empathy, and can be overly sensitive and overly, you know, um, connected to others and absorbing their energy. And so there's that fluidity, there's the lack of boundaries with relationship. There is, the need to actually pull yourself away from people so you can recharge, to get in a quiet space and, go into that place of escapism. But you also got to watch you don't escape into, the overindulgence of anything, any substance that might want to, or thing, whether it be even social media or things that you do with overspending or just overdoing, or um, you know, even if it isn't a kind of a substance thing with the, drugs or booze or that kind of thing, where we want to escape our reality. It might be just going into, as I say to my daughter, the Neverland. She likes to just escape into the, um, fantasy world of whatever she's finding to watch on her phone. And and I know for young people that's a little bit more, um, of their method of escapism as well. So we now are going to talk a little bit about what it is that this Mercury in Pisces conjuncts the Neptune in Pisces. Neptune has a lot of significations that are very similar to Pisces. So that's happening on March 8th. So I put the transits around the edge here. And that transit is at 27 degrees and can be very, very much more connected to the otherworldly and the oneness and divine source in the universe, or the higher power, or the God consciousness, whatever you want to call it. This is, if you have this natally, Neptune and Mercury together, that is a real good indication that you have some very prominent psychic abilities. I mean, we all kind of have our own ways of connecting to the higher power or intuition, but people who are really prominently psychic and just know that, they can trust everything that comes through because it's such a clear vision, or such a clear audio, or such, clear psychic intuitive knowing. that is what can happen during this particular transit. So, there is just this moment in time where everything, um, can feel like you just know. And so I always refer to it as my spidey senses. And I heard, you're going to hear, maybe some overlap of, because I kind of curate what I hear from others as well, of Adam Ellenboss. And I also will talk about this archetype using Ren Butler's book, The Archetypal Universe. Ren actually grew up in my hometown, so I know our families are very connected. And speaking of being connected, and got acquainted when I found my astrology world here. So I always referred to this, as I mentioned, this, kind of real intuitive knowing that's coming up, especially particular in the morning. It may have come through, and you can get kind of lost, and I kind of did, in the words, and hopefully I don't get too lost in the words of this video, but just like my writing just wants to channel almost. But I also, refer to it as my spidey senses, is because sometimes I'm thinking about something or someone, and of course it's that thing where the phone rings or they're reaching out to say, hey, let's get together. My mom, she always used to joke with the, with the grandkids or whoever she was looking after at the time. I can see you. I have eyes in the back of my head, right? So, I mean, if you're a mom, you get it. You have a whole other intuitive knowing when it comes to your kids. And with mine, who is in the approaching mid-20s, hard to believe, in that Gen Z generation, she's just incredibly empathic and intuitive in so many ways, and hers comes through that a real packed first house, and it comes through her body, everything she feels profoundly, because it's she's got Pluto and Moon in her first house. And we've talked about that in another video if you want to go back and look at it, the one that has to do with the Chiron, because she also has Chiron there. And so, this is you being able to channel information, or being extremely sensitive to whatever's coming up in your environment. And we talked a little bit more, more about that. And I like to help all the people who weren't from this world, or didn't grow up in it, and and realize these differences about ourselves, because some people are just a lot more emotionally in tune, or very water dominant in their chart, or have aspects that bring in a lot more all-knowing, and others are just a lot more fiery, and they're more of the action taker doers. And it depends on how the elements actually show up. It has a lot to do with our moon, and we can just briefly actually talk about that, even though we're talking about this particular more psychic moment of Mercury and Neptune coming through. In our natal chart, our moon is kind of the way that we can tap into the intuition all the time. So say if you have a moon that is in an earth sign, so your Taurus, your Virgo, or your Capricorn, that is all very feminine, is very receptive. The earth signs are feminine, very receptive, and they may be ones that are able to meditate and able to bring this through in more of a physical manner. So through nature, gardening, or aromatherapies, oils, herbs, that sort of thing. And they'll want to have a more rational reasoning, especially with the Virgo and the Capricorn earth signs. So something has to be a little more tangible. And so using divination tools for the earth signs tend to really bring that grounded evidence and clarification with their intuition. And I've been using, divination tools for quite some time. I sort of guess my spiritual awakening kind of came through in 2015 when, life started to really crumble. And so I brought my daughter up using them, and she's a Taurus. She's a Taurus sun, Saturn conjunct. She finds it very, very useful. So even though she's got all of that, fiery, intuitive, and deeply profound emotional stuff going on with her Sag, that is really helpful. So she does get that indication that comes through in the body, and I have a Sag moon as well. So that's that fire energy, right? So our Aries, our Leo, our Sagittarius. So if your moon is in there, that's a more masculine and active energy. And so tapping into your intuition can feel more visceral. It can feel more electric. It can feel like it's a sensation. I know my daughter says she gets it in her hips. For me, I'm very airy, so it kind of comes through my mind, but I can just get that innate knowing. It's that subtle sense that it's more the truth. But it's no, it can be harder to trust, especially in Sagittarius because it's very mutable. But you can get goosebumps, you can get tingly skin, and for people to tap into this that have all that fire energy, it's great to do the physical exercise and movement, so and allow things to come through. So walking can really help, or running, martial arts, climbing mountains, lifting weights, dancing, anything that will help stimulate that impulse in your body, and insights and inspirations that want to come through. You will feel more the all-knowing rather than it being kind of a just something that comes in through an image, say, that might happen when you are having this Mercury Neptune conjunction transit. And so you can even, during that transit, trust that a little bit more. And to fire up your intuition when you are fire, helping with candles or burning incense or sitting by a fire or in the sun. For me, all of those things, an infrared heater as well. I have one of those, or sitting in a sauna, that can help bring through that particular intuition when you have it in the fire signs of Aries, Leo, Sagittarius. And then getting into the air quickly, Gemini, Libra, Aquarius. So our Gemini, Libra, Aquarius air signs intuition, if they have your moon in there, it can come through sometimes through ideas and insights in language, or something you hear, or a song you might hear. Sometimes it can be harder to distinguish that from the rational mind, and but you got to listen to your body, right? So, and helping yourself bring it kind of down into earth, maybe even by journaling or scribing or channeling in a written form. Allow yourself to do the brain dump. So, or communicating or talking it out, that often can help you really, especially with a Libra who's about the other, really bring in and what it is that you intuitively know. It just helps facilitate it, and all the downloads that are coming through. So it comes through thought, inspiration, and sometimes audio or verbal messages too, though, like I said, either through song or just something you hear through somebody else, and you're like, oh wow, that was weird, I was just thinking that, and it can actually sometimes even feel logical because it is in that air sign of the mind, right, in the communication. And so it might be, like I said, anything that you hear, or a billboard that you see even that has words. And so pay attention to that, pay attention to what's coming through in words and communication. And it's not straight from an intellectual or logical perspective. So with the, you know, with the water, like a Pisces, a Cancer, a Scorpio, you know, if you're trying to tap into your own intuition, that can come through um, in a, you know, very emotional or creative way, and using your, you know, natural ability to really tap into intuition. Like, I mean, the water signs are just more intuitive in general, and they are very receptive, and they don't often have to actively seek out that intuition. So when this transit of Neptune Mercury is coming through, it can allow the others to really, you know, use, like I had mentioned, their way of getting more intuitive messages, but they might come a lot more easily with that transit in the sky. And you know, the watery moons are also very compassionate and empathetic and sensitive, and so they can also pick up on other people's emotions. So then they have to watch their boundaries, right? Because it can totally throw them off if they're picking up on what's outside themselves. So you have to ask, is this mine or is this someone else's? And really listen to the body. But if you have a moon in water and you want to tap into your emotional space or place, being in water, or you know, using that water as a conduit to help you, either in the bath or swimming or even running water, or living, you know, near the ocean, lake and river, or helping yourself tap into that intuition by being in water, or allowing you know, some of that watery sort of symbolism come through. So we can now dive in to the houses, and the houses of where that Pisces is. And so this will be going through for the new moon as well. So, you know, these significations can also help you with that. So we had, you know, the aspect of, first of all, this conjunction, which was in this house. And then we had this Neptune Mercury coming together as Mercury has moved on, as you can see here in the transit of March 8th, where Neptune and Mercury came together at the end degrees, because Mercury cruises along. And just before Mercury dives into that Aries and parts ways with all of this Pisces energy, look at the house of where this has been happening for you. So as we go through just quickly what house this is in for you, I'm not going to in particularly say how this could manifest, because I find it's just really such a guessing game, because it's so specific to your chart and other things that are going on with the, you know, aspects, whether these red line squares or oppositions, or the flowing, you know, sextiles, or, you know, things that are the 4 signs apart that are trine. And sorry, you know, these would be in the same modality, would be the or the same element would be the trines, as they're 1, 2, 3, 4 signs apart. And so you could look at what, you know, if you have other water planets at those degrees, what's being trined. You can look at 2 signs apart, what's being sextile. Those are nice flowing aspects. If they're 3 signs apart, it's a square. It's this red line. It's 90 degrees, causes tension. There's adjustments to be made. There's something that action needs to be taken, or something needs to be done in order to shift it. Or if it's opposing, it's like, how can you hold space for both those energies? So, you know, I deal with that with having a north node in Pisces in my natal chart, right? And then I have opposing south node and Pluto in Virgo. And I came in knowing how to do so much Virgo, just organizing, tracking details, get it done, being of service, and being asked to go into this Pisces area, which is a lot more receptive has been extremely challenging. And then balancing that, because this has gone too far. So that's my signotic cycle, is that's gone too far. I now need to get more back into that Virgo practical, where it is I'm going to be of service and uh, get into a more grounded earthly, place in life, um, and not so caught up in all of the spiritual world. As to, we have to have a balance of spirituality and practicality, right? So if you're a Pisces rising, this is in your first house. And so how that would look is you would put in your birth time, birthplace, date of birth, and Pisces would be in your first house with your ascendant. And that was on the eastern horizon. That ascendant was on the eastern horizon when you were born. Very, very important in a natal chart. Very important along with the sun and the moon, if you want to look at your big three. And also, when you're looking at horoscopes, look at what your rising sign and how those horoscopes, if you're listening. So you might be a sun in Pisces. So that's great, because then that if you had a Pisces rising, it would be in your first house. You would put the Pisces in the first house, and then all the different aspects would connect to the house in particular. Aquarius rising puts that Pisces in the second house. So I'm an Aquarius rising, so I always listen to Aquarius, even though my sun is in the fifth house of Gemini. So I listen to Aquarius first, and maybe there's some significations there that might be helpful. Looking at your own natal chart and getting a reading consultation is the best way, because there's so many factors involved. But looking at if you are a Pisces rising in the first house, it's very personal. It's about self. It's about your sense of self, your body appearance, your approach to life, your personal identity. And it's sort of what we want to strengthen sometimes. So, like in our own soul, what we're kind of rising into as well. Often we've appeared this way in our childhood, and it brings up, like who I really am and how I appear to others in the world. And it allows you to also look at your body and your body type and those first impressions that we give people. So that is basically the I am energy, the self, the body. If you have a lot of stuff in your first house this lifetime, it is just all to do with you and who you really are at a core level. And that's different than your sun, which is your personality and sort of how you use your energy out in the world. So I'm very much an Aquarius rising. I can be not that emotional at times and be more detached, and very much about bringing in the future, and very much about the using the astrology, which I never knew when I was young. But when I was young, I also was very much about doing my own thing, very much about freedom, and but always wanted to do what's best for the collective. But how I do it is through communication, the Gemini, right? And going out and gathering little bits of data, like I am with this astrology, from all these people that I follow myself, and all my teachers I've been learning through, like Heather Eland and Deborah Silverman, and but I go gather from all kinds of people. I listen to so many different aspects, or different astrologer, and how they perceive the astrology as well, and then try to curate my own kind of version of it. So when you get into an Aquarius rising for this particular transit of anything to do with this conjunction that we had with Mercury, Saturn, Sun, or the Mercury coming together with Neptune, or the new moon that we get coming through. And you're an Aquarius rising, it's going to affect your second house. And the second house is that all to do with what you value, your money, your cash, your finances, your material possessions, how you make your livelihood, your resources that you have access to, your property, that wealth. You're building the skill set in order to be resourceful. And it also, whatever it is that's supporting you, supporting that, self. And so all to do with matters of the money, for sure. It also has a lot to do with your um, your voice, your speech, your face, and the foods that we eat. If we get more into the other astrology significations, so that the dietary elements that you put into your mouth, or what's coming out of your mouth, and your particularly even your voice, and speaking your voice of what you value. So if you're a Capricorn rising, this will be all this Pisces energy, and with the Mercury, Neptune, as well as the new moon and such coming through in your third house of your mind and your communication. It's a as people have called it, the fishbowl of different significations, because it's not just the communication house of speaking, talking, writing, ideas, perceptions, marketing, online world. It also can do then, or in the language that you use, it can also do with your siblings, your cousins, your extended family members, your neighbors, your neighborhood, and the network and community and the close environments of those around you. It also can do with the back and forth of marketplaces, vehicles, transportations, short distance travels and journeys, and also to do with early education. And it is also the house that is connected to all the things that you may have experienced in early childhood, and communicating. It has to do with your also with your lungs. That's another signification of that third house. So that's how the Capricorn risings, or there's something with their, particularly their environment or their relatives, or how they speak and communicate, and what's going to, coming through there. It can be very good with bringing in some sort of intuitive words through that Mercury and Neptune conjunction. The fourth house, Sagittarius rising are experiencing, has to do with your home, property, family relations, the parents, your ancestors' roots, where you go to retreat, your mom and dad, and things going on with them. It can have to do with your own, land or the property that you own, and or something to do with your heritage or your, family of origin. And where there might be even some, things coming in from your ancestral lineage, and that complete otherworldly place of something intergenerational that's coming up, with through the psychology. And it's that place where there can be some beginning and endings, and where you can also, tap into the mother energy and that gut instinct. And yeah, it's just a lot to do with your private life and, domestic household property. So the fifth house, that is the Scorpio rising, is the fifth house. And that is connected to our creativity, our children, play, fun, pleasurable activities, joy, recreation, all the hobbies that we do, romance and dating, flirtations, love affairs, sexual relations at times, places where we have, that fertility, you know, the kid, the childlike spirit within us, and can often have, with through that Neptune Mercury, can have some potentially some creative breakthroughs that come through. So if you're a creative and you're a Scorpio rising, allow yourself to, bring through that place that, can be very much expressing all that creativity with, and what brings you joy, and finding ways to be very playful and express yourself in, storytelling or whatever it is that wants to come through, that has to do with your either your children or your hobbies, or um, some music, or romance, and connection in a romantic way, with or and arts as well, with the Libra rising sixth house. So that is our day to day. That is our everyday habits, routines, work, home, that place of service and servitude, the employment we have, the employees we have, co-workers, that workplace environment, and also to do with our, how we feel useful and of service in our job or in our day to day. It is connected with our health, our nutrition, and our rituals to do with how we keep ourselves well, our pets as well. And it can be a place of, healthcare professions, if that has anything to do with your particular life. And, allowing that Mercury Neptune, uh, may just have something to do that's coming through with any of those topics that are showing up in your day-to-day life, or a new health routine that you need to, bring in, and also, hopefully nothing to do with disruptions in your health or wellness, or job. But if it is, that's what's meant to be, right? So we're all getting some kind of shakeup in our world right now, and maybe you're getting a download like, this just is not working for me, through that cycle of the, Saturn and Mercury, Kazemi with the sun, and now you're getting some kind of more intuitive hits of what needs to change, and then allowing yourself with this new moon in Pisces to really initiate something new, and how that's going to show up in your day-to-day routine life, and where you're going to be of service, and how you're going to look after your health, or something to do with your pets as well. The seventh house is our Virgo risings, are experiencing this with their seventh house, which has to do with other relationship, partnerships, agreements, business, contracts, alliances, negotiations. It can be even just anything to do with our partner, and even some contractual agreements, and how we connect with, are connecting and collaborating with others. So in that seventh house, we really can see some things coming through that do have to do with your relationships. Can even be open enemies, but it can also, have something to do with your marriage partnerships, and business partnerships as well. When we go into the eighth house for our Leo risings is our soul contracts, and how we've merged and shared with others. So this can be joint finances, those resources that we share with others, or places that we get resources. So, whether that's a bank loan or investment, or even an inheritance, or something to do with your mortgage, taxes, insurance, bank loans, and other people's money, and how you get those resources, and or investments that you've had. It also can be the house of those things that are underneath, those psychological issues, old patterns that you may be addressing, the fears or power control dynamics or paradigms that are shifting. It's a place of kind of a death and rebirth moment, and um, you know that could have something to do even with um, who we're sharing our finances with, or those assets, and sometimes even to do with that um, merging of others in a sexual intimate relationship, and has to do also with the that spiritual connected place that that might be affecting your psyche. um yeah, it can be connected to the otherworldly as well, the witchcraft or magic, or the even the astrology called sciences, those sorts of things, and places that we want to overcome you know all of those scary things that are going on in our lives. So um yeah, it can bring in a few different topics, either related to merging with people in our financial way, or merging with the other side um, in a mystical, magical way, or finding that place in a psychological sort of death and rebirth moment. Now, if you are a Cancer rising, this is in the ninth house, and this has all to do with our sort of direction and moral compass, higher mind, higher wisdom, philosophies and spiritual beliefs and paradigms and expanded horizons that we use to direct our lives. It can have to do with higher education, or foreign lands and foreign cultures and travel long distantly. But it's for our guiding beliefs. It's a framework of how we look at the world around us from a more philosophical or political or ethical moral way, our social you know societal um, principles that we navigate life through. And it can be things to do also with the divine source, our God consciousness, the goddesses, the universe, the spirit. And so that Neptune Mercury can really bring in a bit of a shift in our or messages in our um, through our belief systems or unconscious, or how it is that we are connecting to everything to do with our spirituality. And it also has to do with publication, the house to do with publications, and higher educational places like universities and colleges, and that sort of thing. So if we're going into the 10th house of the Gemini rising, that is to do with our public reputation, our career, our status out in the world, and how we are seen as an authority figure, our success out in the world, how we're recognized in our community or in our professional life, our long-term goals and pursuits, our vocational area. It's that place that we have some sort of rank in society, or the corporation that we're in, or just even the public image we have in our local area, and has a lot to do with um, the authority figures in our life. And often when people have some really significant planets there, they're really known out in the public world, the fame and status and that sort of thing. And so this is a house where we're trying to establish ourselves to leave that legacy. And because it was part of, there's sometimes where in whole sign houses that you have the midheaven in the 10th house as well. The midheaven can be shifted into other houses, but it is connected as well to all of those places that we want to achieve and how we're seen. So very much can be connected to our career as well, and how we're seen as an authority figure. And with the 11th house, our Taurus risings are having all of this Pisces energy in their 11th house. That has to do with our hopes, wishes, and dreams, our groups, networks, community of friends, of allies, the memberships and clubs we belong to, collaboration, social connections, and participation in anything that you're doing to build community or have the same goals and missions in life, those tribes and alliances that you make. And it also is that place where you can put, bring in the blessings of abundance and those long-term dreams and visions and goals and accomplishments. So allow yourself to use that Neptune Mercury to download what it is that you want to bring in through your divine guidance that is going to allow you to fulfill all of these hopes and long-term aspirations and dreams and goals and whatever it is that you are connected to in your network of people. That can be very, futuristic and technology and connected to astrology as well. And so then when we get into the Aries rising in the 12th house, this is such an interesting house. And trying to tap into the meaning of it actually is a little bit also connected to some of the same significations that we're dealing with in that Pisces, that otherworldly. And, kind of connecting to the psyche and the unconscious, because it's that part of you that's hidden, the unconscious part of you, and the places behind the scenes that nobody sees. So, this is all to do with those parts of you that were wounded, those parts of you that have been exiled and want to, in this lifetime, actually come into your conscious awareness, but you don't even know they exist. So when you're going through a 12th house transit, this can unveil those parts of you. And I've just been through that. So very, very true. There was like this whole other part of me that I didn't even know existed, that through a very transformational experience and things coming and going and people coming and going and jobs coming and going and mirroring images and learning and going into a very place of solitude and using divination tools and all of these things, I found this other part of me that is very spiritually connected, and I in order to help others find those aspects of themselves. And I didn't know that existed growing up. I had no conscious awareness of that part. So this is all part of our life. Like, we're all humans here to evolve and grow, and we all have these lessons. So we're really on a soul level trying to find these parts of us that are under the surface, so we can bring them up to the surface and shine light on them. And that is part of the exercises and processes I do in the empowerment work. And the astrology archetypes help so much with it. And allowing yourself to dive into, who's running the show in the shadow, right? Those life circumstances that everything went to hell in a handbasket, as you would say, or went to shit. And like, now you're trying to like find your way out of it. It's bringing up these aspects of you that do need to be seen by others. And there's things and people, situations and jobs that have mirrored it, that have triggered it. And there's been a lot of emotional charge potentially that has been brought up within you to then process all of this emotion to elevate yourself in consciousness. So that's the work we do with the power versus force through Dr. David Hawkins that I learned through SWAT. That's what we use, is this whole map of empowerment, we call it, but conscious levels of emotion, starting with shame and guilt and victimhood, and then transforming as you move through these life changes, to process these emotions, going through the grieving process. The grieving process is even your identity of who you once were, and been through that, as well as then it evokes fear of like, oh my God, I don't know how to do this. What am I doing? Where am I going? This is what's happening. And then allowing yourself to work through the pride of like, this isn't who I am, and I can do this, or this is how I want this to go, and letting your ego run the show, to a place of neutrality, of putting yourself over and above all of what is happening in the craziness of it, in neutrality as the observer, the ego soaring above, watching the movie, and allowing yourself that time to let things unfold. And sometimes while that's happening, it can take you to these, other realms, other places, right? But it is incorporating what has been suppressed to be expressed. It's allowing those, hidden enemies within us or in our relationships to really be brought to the surface, so we can understand and emerge from this darkness and integrate the wholeness of who we really are, and at a soul level, so that we can figure out what this blueprint of this astrology natal chart wants us to know. And that file folder that we were given when we decided we'd come down to this place called Earth, of our talents and gifts and abilities that may have not been revealed as we are shifting through life. And we come in too with the nodes are really great to look at, because we come in with these talents that we're just like, yeah, that's easy, I can do that. That was me in the Virgo, right? Pisces, not so much, right? It was a huge transformation to get to that side, and they are so very vastly different, and trying to integrate both of them, um is it can be quite challenging, but it is allowing us to find where it is that we need to let go of some of these aspects of ourselves that are no longer working for us in life. And so getting back into the 12th house, it's the blind spot, the endings, the house of self-undoings. Sometimes we can feel loss or misfortune, or have some self-sabotage or fears, or a whole spiritual revolution of insights and healing. It's a place we go to have solitude and recharge, brings closure, and it it's that thing in your natal chart that you don't easily see about yourself, and does not come as naturally to you. That place of kind of, we struggle to integrate. So again, for it's that spiritual part. It's that unconscious. And there are places that you can, access these things too, through your actual dreams or mysticism, or finding your place in an ashram, a temple, some sort of retreat, just even in nature, finding yourself a way to have contemplation and healing, and self-reflection. But it also can be that place of prisons, jails, and hospitals, where you actually get taken out of the real life world in order to contemplate. And I've seen that happen with family members as well. And you need that time to step away out of the norm in order to find all of these like profound treasures that you carry within you, and allow that time of, reflection. So all of these, talents and gifts can come in and allow you to, um, bring in that inner knowing and your imagination and meditation and dreaming and, connection with your spiritual self, divination tools, the mystic, the magical, can help actually, bring this about, right? So, wherever it is that you may have felt like a little bit of the black sheep in your family, that now needs that light shone on it, and um, you know, it's sort of what's beyond you, or outside of you, that you have not been able to control, right? We all have free will, yes. Um, but there are certain things in life where we just need to surrender, because we just know, and that'll come too also with the eclipses coming up. There's going to be some faded things that bring in just this, particular change, that's bringing in our destiny line, and what it is that we are being guided to through divine source and our higher power. And it's beyond anything that we can control. It can feel very, very challenging, and it also does need to happen in order for us to evolve as the human that we're meant to evolve into. So allow this time and space for anything that's coming up through that transit, that wanted to, first of all, shift the synodic cycle. Secondly, have that divine intuition and all of this Pisces party we got going on with this Neptune Mercury conjunct. Then going into the new moon of Pisces, and also allowing your energy to move with whatever is coming in just before the new moon in Pisces, which we'll talk about in another video, which is that Mars Uranus square. And we get these a few times, a couple times a year, or a couple times within the synodic cycle of the Mars, which is 2.1 years. We get the squares. We also get Mars Uranus trines. We also get a Mars Uranus conjunction, and we also get a Mars Uranus opposition that happened throughout this 2-year period, that synodic cycle, and we'll get into that later. And that energy is a lot more feisty, and you're going to have to allow yourself to use energy in a whole new way, or the energy will use you. So hopefully the Pisces new moon and this particular transit isn't too foggy or vague, or take you to a more delusional space. And hopefully you can use it in a more creative, beautiful way in order to allow your intuition to guide you in the right direction, and then how to navigate some of the wilder energies that are involved always as well. So that'll be it for right now for this particular time frame. Of course, this went on way longer than I had anticipated, but you can look at the house that yours is in, and I will have the various chapters so that you can just jump to wherever it is that you need. And so we looked at all of this Pisces house in this particular video that had to do with this change of this synodic cycle of the cazimi of Mercury, Saturn, and the Sun, and the Mercury and Neptune coming together. And we will continue on with whatever the new moon has to share with us, with the prior to having that Mars and Uranus square that might shake a few things up as well. So thank you all for being here. I'm going to share with you just another slide if you want to connect with me. we can look at your natal chart as well, or if you need any support, please reach out through the email or through the link. And I will just briefly put up the slide for you, and all the information will be below. Thanks all. Until we meet again. Bye for now.